Welcome to this edition of BurnTech University, presented by United States Stove Company. In today's video, we will show you how to properly install the 11DIKL Draft Inducer Kit on your furnace. Always refer to your owner's manual. This video is for informational purposes only. If you are unsure about replacing any of the components on the stove, we recommend having a certified electrician or stove technician do this for you. The tools needed for today's project are a crescent wrench or channel locks, a 5/16 drill or socket driver, number 2 Phillips screwdriver, flyhead screwdriver, 7/16 wrench, 1/4 inch ratchet, 7/16 socket, and wire strippers. To begin your project, first disconnect power from the stove. Next, break the jumper on the limit control by snipping it in two using wire cutters or needle nose pliers. Then, using your drill or socket driver, remove the screws holding the thermodisc cover to the back of the stove. Disconnect the wires plugged onto the thermodisc. Now remove the lock nut from the thermodisc cover and remove the wires. Using your wire strippers, cut the plastic terminals from the two wires coming from the conduit. Strip approximately 1/4 inch of the plastic coating from both the black and white wires. Take out the two screws holding the thermodisc to the back of the stove and remove it. Replace the thermodisc cover with the screws you removed earlier. Remove the two knockouts from the bottom of the high limit control and insert the high limit control into the opening on the back of the stove. The high limit control should pass through the black cover, then through the stove, and sit flush. Please note, when using a room thermostat, you must break off the jumper for low voltage. Insert and tighten the screws provided to hold the high limit control to the thermostat bracket. Insert the conduit you previously removed coming from the junction box through the knockout space on the bottom of the high limit control. Then replace the lock nut. Using a new piece of conduit, remove the lock nut and insert the wires through the second knockout space and replace the lock nut. To the right of the conduit on the top of the junction box, knock out one tab. Take the cover off of the junction box using your number 2 Phillips screwdriver and insert the second conduit through the knockout space you removed. Then tighten the lock nut. Remove the forced draft plug on the back of your stove. The plate with the threaded shaft will attach to the draft blower with the nuts and bolts provided. Insert the bolts through the blower and plate, and then tighten them using your ratchet and wrench. Once the bolts are in place, screw the threaded shaft through the opening on the back of the stove until it is tight. Using your ratchet, remove the 4 screws coming from the side plate to the draft blower. Then remove the lock nut from the conduit. Place the wires through the bottom of the side plate on the draft blower and tighten the lock nut. Remove the lock nut on the other end of this conduit and insert the wires through a knockout space on the bottom of the junction box. Then tighten the lock nut. To wire the draft blower, connect the white wire from the conduit to the black wire from the draft blower. Then secure with a wire nut. Connect the black wire from the conduit and the black wire from the draft blower, then secure with a wire nut. Replace the cover onto the draft blower, then insert and tighten the screws to secure the cover. To connect the high limit control, twist all of the wires coming from both of the conduit. The wires, when pressed in, will lock into place. The two black wires will attach on the left and right side of the metal dial. The two white wires will attach on the terminals on the bottom, below the metal dial. The cover will snap over the front of the high limit control. To wire in the forced draft blower and blower limit control, first locate the brown wire coming from the fan control center, then cap it off using a wire nut. Connect the black wire coming from the top left on the limit control to the two black wires coming from the left and right blower using a wire nut. Next, connect the white wire coming from the bottom right of the limit control to the red wire coming from the fan control center using a wire nut. Now connect the white wire from the bottom left of the limit control, the black wire coming from the power cord, and the two black wires coming from the fan control center using a wire nut. Connect the black wire coming from the top right of the limit control to the black wire coming from the forced draft blower using a wire nut. Lastly, connect the white wire coming from the power cord, the white wires coming from the left and right blowers, the white wire coming from the forced draft blower, and the white wire coming from the fan control center using a wire nut. Now replace the fan control center by putting it in place against the junction box, then tighten the two screws on the bottom left and upper right hand corners. To install the wall thermostat to the fan control center, connect an 18 gauge 2-conductor wire to the top left terminal labeled R. Then connect an 18 gauge 2-conductor wire to the bottom middle terminal labeled G. To make this connection, loosen the screws, strip a 1/4 inch off the plastic coating from the wires, bend the naked wires around the screws, then tighten the screws. Then run the two wires from the fan control center to the wall thermostat. The two wires will connect to the terminals on the left and right hand side of the wall thermostat at the bottom. To make this connection, loosen the screws, strip a 1/4 inch off the plastic coating from the wires, bend the naked wires around the screws, then tighten the screws. Now that your project is complete, connect power to your stove and check for proper operation. Once again, this video is for informational purposes only. We strongly recommend a certified electrician or stove technician do any repairs for you. If you have any additional questions, please call our customer service at 1-800-750-2723 or visit www.usstove.com. Thank you for watching BurnTech University.